All right, so this is session 3 with this painting, and again, this is not typically the way I would work. I don't typically like take a lot of breaks in between this. I find that in the direct method, I'm usually going. So you can do this any way that you want to, and I know this is probably a hard thing to kind of think about because I'm not giving you a roadmap in that sense. But I don't think painting really is about roadmaps. It's really about problem solving, and you can do things in whatever order you want to. So, all right. So the first thing I do at the beginning here is this is all bone dry, and if you want to, you can always have your palette knife around, and if you find that you want to scrape it back, there's nothing wrong with that. You'll actually make it a little bit, less precious if you're going to do that. So I'm just going to do it. Just going to scrape it back a little bit. And what that does is it's going to make it so that I'll probably go over this again. And it doesn't make it so it's locked in, So the thing I just want to mention is, again, I'm same brush, Trekell Legion number 6. I know everyone's going to want to know what it is. And then I have the 3-in-1. And this is a product by Gamblin, and what it is it's oil with mineral spirits and a tiny bit of alkyd. And what that's going to do is it's going to make it so that the surface is sunken in, you can see it. And that's just a function of like oil, iron oxides, and also the surface being absorbent. So what I'm going to try to do here, just dipping this in my mineral spirits, is to take a little bit of this, put it back on here. This is just the 3-in-1. I'm just putting a little bit on the surface of the palette there. And then I'm just gonna, you can see that? See how it brings it back? Now you gotta be very, very careful. I say this because, when I was in grad school at the Academy of Art University, look at that. So that's what happens when it's painted, and this is what happens when it oxidizes. The oil sinks into the surface. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to paint back into this. So if you want, I would even just take a rag and go over the top, because you don't want a lot of oil on there, but you can see it pulls off a little bit of paint too. If you have too much oil on the surface, it's going to yellow. So dark colors are going to sink in more. Iron oxides, carbon-based pigments, those are the ones that are gonna sink in a little bit more. I think synthetics sink in a little bit less. Synthetics are the Mars colors, and they're iron oxides, but they've been, I believe, purified a little bit. So you can see that, right? Now it's like, oh, the form comes back out, and I feel good about it. And that's the thing, is you could come back in the next day and be like, what the heck? I thought it looked good. But what I do at the beginning is just go over the surface and just rub it in. You want as least amount of oil as you can on the surface. And that's why I say at the Academy of Art University, they used to have us like cover it with liquid. And that's not good. That's not a good practice, because what's going to happen is you're just going to eventually have yellow over the top. And I have paintings that's happened to. Spots of like unevenness. A lot of the time if we're not measuring what our amounts of mediums are, then we're going to have too much distribution there. So keep that in mind. Okay, so the painting never stops being drawing. That's really like the big part of this that I should mention. That's really what I think the direct method is, which is just that you never stop drawing the whole time. So keep that in mind. I'm going to correct. And I'm going to correct as I go. Just going to put a couple colors out. And if you want to, get yourself into, coming back into an area that's easy. And again, maybe just a touch more oil. Maybe I just removed too much of it. So I'm going to move a little bit faster today, because last time I was talking a lot. And maybe I'll talk a little bit less, and then I will try to see if I can get a little bit more done But typically in this manner, I move pretty quickly. Got some titanium white. I move pretty quickly, and it allows for the painting to kind of move with me. And yeah, so I'm gonna narrate as I go. All right, so the brush is a little bit gnarly, and I'm not quite sure if if I like it or not. I have cobalt blue on here from the demo I was giving at Lime Academy the other day. So, and I'm gonna just lower the chroma a little bit with burn umber. And I remember that mixture last week, and that's the thing. You'll start to remember these mixtures. It's not about color picking or swatching and all that stuff. Like, that's just not something I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna just put that back on there. I'm gonna warm back up to it. And if you want, do something that's rather simple. You can even just grab the black and kind of go right back into the dark area. You don't have to do this. You don't have to scrape the surface. But if you find yourself getting a little bit too precious, then there's nothing wrong with that, in my opinion. All right, I'm going to put that purple back up there. I remember last week, that's my memory, color memory. And then just get back in here, warm it back up. Okay, so let's get back. And now, what I'm trying not to do is get into the mode of render the crap out of one thing, move on to next thing, render the crap out of that thing. I don't think it's a bad thing, and that's what I was trying to do when I was showing some of the unfinished show that was at the Met Breuer. Is just that, even Lucian Freud was finishing a part of the face, and it could have been just the way in which he was working because maybe the model had to leave or something and he could do the rest from memory. But start to play with this data and start to think of what's the best methodology. There is a psychological component to it, which is you got to feel good about it as you're going through it. And let me just see if I can find another brush that's not so crappy. And this is common with me, that I just kind of kill my brushes. So that's the Trekell Legion round number 6, and I'm going to just get it to be a bit of a flat anyway. So I'm going to keep both in my hand, see which one feels better. All right, then there's contrast in the background. So I'm going to just take that, bring it over here. I have a little bit of yellow ochre still active from the last time I painted. And I'm going to just tiny bit of mineral spirits on there on the brush. And I'm going to just, this is where you can go between, thinly adding a layer. I know everyone's going to ask about the fat over lean concept, but fat over lean concept is kind of, I think, over talked about. Every pigment has a different component of oil in it anyway. And it's just something to keep in mind, of course. I'm not going to, there are some rules and stuff like that you want to kind of abide by, but, don't be afraid to just thinly put it on. I find in the direct manner, I can do something like that, even if it's thinner than the last layer. And what that's just going to do is if I paint wet into wet over the top, it doesn't particularly matter because none of these colors are going to dry. And then whatever I put on over it is going to get me to my destination. So I'm going to just, just get this in. Now, this is where it's now silhouetting the form. And again, this is where I'd say, let's take this and then draw